the bond market. Can you give us an insight into the government's borrowing plan locally and externally?
Okay, for this year, really, we're doing, for 2017 budget, we're borrowing what is in the budget. And we have, in the domestic market, we have done about 3/4 of that. Externally, we have $2 billion US dollars, which we hope to issue about September. Okay, so that's based on the 2017 approvals. Like we said, we only borrow what is put in the budget. And if that's why government goes back to the National Assembly with a supplementary if they need more money to finance some expenses. So in the domestic market, that one has been running seamlessly. We have a quarterly calendar and then a monthly auction. Externally, which is where there's a big push because we want to lower the cost of funds and reduce how much we borrow from the domestic market. There's $2 billion Eurobonds that we would issue.
Okay, we'll take a break right now. We're still with the Director General of the Debt Management Office. Join us after the break for more on this. Welcome back. We're still with the Director General of the Debt Management Office, Mrs. Patience Oniha. Thank you for joining us once again.
Thank you.
So now explain to us, what are the sources, of strength really in Nigeria's debt profile?
The first part is to say that one of the achievements is actually for the government to recognize debt management as an important fiscal activity. If you look at our history, before the debt relief, we didn't have that. Okay, so there's a central desk responsible, okay, for managing the public debt. So that is significant. So borrowing debts are not coming from different directions. They are managed centrally. And not just for the federal government, but even with the state governments. So it is safe to say that at this point, a strength for Nigeria is that debt is being managed centrally and professionally. We know what our debts are. We service our debts. We have never defaulted. Okay, so both local and domestic, there isn't a single case of default. But beyond that, one of the achievements also is to say that we've worked closely with the states to know what their domestic debts are. So we know the external because we do the borrowing and on-lend. So the strength is to say for Nigeria, the data is available, the records are there, which is why people can access them and discuss them and maybe help us to get better. So that's, I would say, one of the strengths. The other strength really is to say that I think the debt management has contributed to developing the domestic market. Now, as you would know, there's a domestic bond market, there's a domestic debt market. Prior to the DMO, what you had really was an equities market and then bank placements, commercial papers. Okay, so we've developed a market where companies, including banks, can also issue bonds. And this the most important issue around that is to say, when the equities market collapsed, companies could not come and raise equity, but they could issue bonds. Okay, so that has been taken to a very high level. So domestically, we've helped to create an avenue for corporates and state governments to issue bonds. And internationally, which is very significant, and I say it with some passion because the first Eurobond that was issued was in my portfolio. And most people internationally didn't know all of those things about Nigeria. They listened to information on CNN and all of that. I know what we are known for, corruption, 419. So going to them with a prospectus that was about 200 pages with all the details about Nigeria and going out there to meet with them was like, okay, these people have something to offer. So we've showcased Nigeria in the international financial community. I'm not talking about like with the UN or so. No, the international financial community. There are good things about Nigeria. You should look here. Okay, so while we've done that one and also like positioning Nigeria out there, it then made the foreign investors interested in the domestic market. Yes, so they now came in to buy equities. First, they didn't know too much about you, okay? They knew a little about you, not too good, not great. So they came to the domestic market, bought equities. Some have lines for banks. I'm talking of loans, not the trade transactions. So I think to that extent we have contributed significantly to supporting Nigeria's image, attracting capital into Nigeria, and making capital, external capital, available for Nigerian entities to be able to go there. Okay, we provided an alternative outlet for people to invest. So if you had money before, where would you put it? Bank deposits or savings or equities. Now you not only have FGN bonds, you have corporate bonds.
Now you see the analysts say something. They say that Nigeria's debt burden indicators may, just deteriorate if, according to them, there is no increase in revenue profile. What's your take on this?
I think there are two parts to it. We keep going back to the balancing the equation between revenues and debt. Okay, so I'll start with the debt. Yes. Certainly we would like to see a lower debt service. Okay, so that the revenues can be, the available revenues for now, can be released to finance priority projects. So what we're going to do is, in terms of rebalancing and remixing the portfolio, to make sure we have, to improve the component of lower cost debt. So if you have lower cost debt, your debt service would be lower. Okay, that's not overnight. It's not possible for you to do overnight. Don't forget you're already running with some securities already, with obligations in the long term. So, but consciously and actively, that is our immediate short-term objective, to remix the portfolio so we can reduce the debt service. But on the other side, we're talking about revenues. Debt service to revenue means there are two sides. Revenues will increase, okay? Where we've had a historical problem is we always relied on oil. Okay, so anything happens to oil, the impact is huge. Measures have been put in place to increase revenues, and I believe we'll begin to see the impact over time. Some we already are beginning to see where the monies that really belong to the government from revenue generating agencies are coming in. Duty waivers, pioneer status, all of those waivers that we gave, and then VATES that was launched recently. And the FRS is doing a lot to make it easier for you to pay your tax. So if it's easier to pay, you shouldn't be reluctant to pay.
Well, thank you very much, Mrs. Patience Oniha. Thank you for coming on Dateline Abuja.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.